Hello, everyone, and welcome to the live stream of the Engadget Podcast recording. I am Deputy Editor Sherlyn Lowe. Joining me today, we have a full slate. Over on my right of your screen, left on my left, is Sam Rutherford, Senior Writer. Hey, Sam.
Hey, how's it going?
Thanks for joining us today. It's a stacked week. So we also have special guest Matt Smith, UK Bureau Chief, joining us to talk all about his stuff. Hey, Matt.
Hey, I look like I'm not moving on this stream.
Yeah,
but,
you look immovable today. You look.
Yeah, that's the energy I'm coming with. Yep.
Yeah.
How are you doing, Sherlyn?
You know, hanging in there. I wanted to open this episode with "Hi, I have a sty," but
do you?
Yeah, I do.
Oh no,
it's not a lot of fun. And then Ben Elman, as always, our podcast producer, is here as well. Hey, Ben.
Hi, everybody.
So, like I said, it's a stacked week. We had so many events. Microsoft, Google, OnePlus, and Sam's reviewing the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra. And then we also had just news. There was a whole State of the Union address. There was just all kinds of stuff. Out of nowhere, February has been beastly. So we're going to talk a lot about everything. If you're new here, first of all, thanks for joining us. But second of all, this is a behind the scenes look at how we record the audio version of the Engadget podcast, which hits platforms like Spotify, SoundCloud, etc. tomorrow or later today. Which means we will be recording segments where we're just talking to each other. We can't talk to you on the live chat, but we will take segment breaks and we will be able to come to you. In fact, later today on this live stream, I will be demoing the new Bing or the new Edge live. You will see it on your screen over here, not my face, maybe my face, but the new Bing. And I want to take your queries. I want you to be putting them in the chat and telling me what you want me to ask the new Bing. So stick around for that. But today we are going to record the show a little bit out of order. Matt is it's late for Matt, so we want to be able to get Matt's portion out of the way. And then me and Sam will party. Are y'all hype? Are y'all excited?
Sure. You're asking for trouble with live demos. You know what happens with live demos on every single CES anything. Something always goes wrong.
You always have the worst tripods as well, or whichever kind of physical part is part of your demo never works.
I currently have the most precarious setup too, because this mic's about to fall off at any time. So I'm gonna move this away. It's trying to have, because I have a second laptop over here. I have been using the Galaxy Book 3 Pro 360 a little bit. You know what, I'm gonna put it over here. It feels a little safer. Oh,
I've got a secret device that I still haven't talked to Sherlyn about actually, that I can't bring on. But I had to move it because it was in close proximity. So I've thrown that. I haven't thrown it, but
I like how you're a static picture for your own personal reasons right now. But then when you talk, you actually move because our video live stream team is just that smart. If you move, they might make it look like you're nodding your head.
Oh, really? Dynamic movement. See? Amazing. Oh, look, I'm giggling.
It's more, it's more like puppetry, though. It's just like jiggling the picture.
It's like Saddam Hussein's face in South Park levels of animation.
Exactly.
Oh, my God. Exactly. Speaking of the live chat, really quickly, I want to say hi to everyone that's here. I'm looking over here because that's where I have the live chat open, by the way. But yeah, hi to Michael Brescher Jr., Guillaume FR, Buddy305 Love, a familiar name, Akashic Travels, George Morgan, Gabriel ZB Vlogging. So, hi, thanks for joining us. We should kick things off soon enough. Everyone ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Everyone feeling mad hype? All right.
We just got to do a clap, right?
We got to do our sync, Ben.
Enough. Yep. Okay. So if you've been around, you know what's happening. If this is your first time on the Engadget live stream, we do a clap to sync the audio. You can clap in the chat if you want to. You can just put a clap emoji in the chat. That's cool. And then we're going to do a little bit of silence. And then we're going to get actually into the recording. So counting down from 3, 2, 1. Okay, and some silence. During this silence, hey, everybody on the stream, hit that upvote button, the thumbs up, so other people can see us on the homepage. Silence over. Let's get to it.
All right, so we're going to do the intro, intro first, and then we'll do the intro to the OnePlus / Matt segment. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Engadget Podcast. I'm Deputy Editor Sherlyn Lowe, and today joining me as guest co-host is Sam Rutherford, Senior Writer. Hey, Sam, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Oh my gosh. Hanging in there.
It's been that kind of week, huh?
It has been a week of a week of a week. It's like on yesterday, I was like, wait, it's not already over. It's just midweek. But the reason it's felt like such a week is because we have so many things going on. Microsoft had an event where it unveiled its new Bing, a new Edge. And then Google also had an event in Paris. OnePlus launched a new phone. You're reviewing the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra. A lot of stuff has been happening. There was a State of the Union in the United States. A lot is going on. We will be breaking into all of that in this episode. But as always, if you're enjoying the show, please make sure to subscribe on your podcast catcher of choice. Leave us a review on iTunes. And hey, if you want to have some live Q&A or demo sessions with us, make sure you head on over to the Engadget YouTube channel on Thursdays at about 10:30 a.m. Eastern. We live stream the recording of this show there. It's usually a very fun time. And if you were able to today / in the past, go back to this YouTube channel or YouTube clip of this, you'll see some live demos of the new Bing. So it's a fun time. Come hang out. All right, so I'm going to go into the OnePlus segment. Okay. So aside from all of that AI conversation and chatter and a lot of news out there, we also had some phone news. And here to join us to talk about some of these phones and gadgets is Engadget's UK Bureau Chief, Matt Smith. Hey, Matt, thanks for joining us.
Hey, sure thing. Thanks for having me again. How are you doing?
Big sigh already. Way to start.
Yeah.
Well, way to start this section. Matt, you reviewed the OnePlus 11 for us, and the phone was launched this week. So, I mean, that's not the only device that was launched this week from OnePlus, but we'll get into the other stuff later on. Tell me a little bit about this phone, and what do you think the general expectation was for this?
Yeah, so, OnePlus kind of ebbs and flows over the years. It kind of it landed with a bang, kind of offering decent specs on an Android phone, kind of delivering on a price promise. And then that kind of faded away as more phones came in and just, the pace of innovation in smartphones kind of sped up and it kind of got ahead of OnePlus. This one's more OnePlus-y than the last couple of years, if that's the way to put it. You have proper high-end specs married with a decent price tag. It's really weirdly priced, about $699 in the US. So that puts it more expensive than a Pixel A series, but cheaper than Samsung's cheapest Galaxy S23.
It's almost like Pixel 7 pricing, right?
Yeah, that's probably the best comparison to make, to be honest. Well, maybe I should have thought of that. But yeah, that's where it's landing. So it's quite intriguing. It's still got a huge screen. The cameras are dipping into my review. The cameras are better. The battery life is really good, which is something I think Sam saw on the S23 Ultra as well. Yeah, it's better in all ways, but it is a bit boring.
Yeah, but Sam, I know you have feels about OnePlus, just general confusion and disappointment in them as a company. What do you think here?
No, and I think Matt put it really well. Where it's OnePlus, they kind of ebb and flow. Where their strategies, sometimes oh, let's do the fancy super premium flagship thing, and then the next year's oh, we're not doing that anymore. And I thought your the headline for your review, back to basics, is was actually really spot on, because this thing's cheaper than the OnePlus 10 Pro last year, but it also kind of steps back some features. There's no wireless charging, even though that's something that was on the OnePlus 10. And so that's a weird omissions. 1 year you have wireless charging, 1 year you don't, and it's it's a little, I guess, a little confusing from looking at a company strategy. But if you're talking about getting back to basics, that's exactly what it is. Big screen, big processor. Great performance and not a lot of frills. And, for the price, I'm more okay with it than, if they were going to continue charging $900 for this thing.
Yeah, I think the price really makes it better in so many ways, the price they've given to it. Otherwise, it was going to be a bit boring. But it's like Sam said, it's cheaper than last year's 10 Pro. And that's another thing to address, the fact that there was never a OnePlus 10 last year. And there's not, at least as much as OnePlus is saying, going to be an 11 Pro this year. So this is just the OnePlus main phone, which I think is a nice way to clarify. And you can't really be calling it a Pro if there are drawbacks or, corners cut to land at that price.
That's what I was going to ask you, Matt, which is that like, what does it sound to you like they're not releasing a pro model this year that has some like meteor upgrades?
This is their pro one, yeah.
That's
as
it,
far as
right?
it stands, yeah.
Interesting choice.
Yeah, right.
like-
I mean, the specs are flagshipy enough. Like Sam said, there's no wireless charging, but it does have 100-watt charging, which is incredible. Oh my God.
How long does it take you to charge your phone? Yeah, this phone.
Like, I don't know, 15 minutes to get 50% back. Like obviously that's when it's at its lowest ebb and it kind of slows down as the battery fills because physics or something. But it is so good. I'm just like leaving that charger in, and just the only problem with that kind of innovation is you need that phone, that charger, and that cable to make it work. Sure, they box in the charger, but if only like all USB-C cables worked, or any charger that had 100 watts. But I understand like the proprietary stuff is more for safety and making sure your phone doesn't explode. But yeah, that is a really cool feature that even beats, you know, the most expensive Galaxy S phone. Like,
do you like the
faster.
cameras? The cameras here, by the way?
I was gonna say I wanted to ask you about that because this is like what the 3rd year or like 2.5 years in with the whole Hasselblad partnership.
Yeah, it really hasn't changed much. They've made like some weird choices. Like I'm sure they had their reasons for them, but so when it comes to like the telephoto, which I think is the main thing where you're discriminating now between most phones, the telephoto went from an 8 megapixel sensor that could reach 3.3 times optical up in resolution to a 32 megapixel telephoto, but only topping out at 2 times zoom. And it's like, what is that, like a maths problem? It's just like algebra. Like, which one exactly?
You have more pixels, so you can crop in more, but
exactly.
the zoom is less. So when it's like, okay,
yeah, but then you're just doing manual digital zoom yourself in a way, aren't you?
Right.
I think it's better, which is presumably what OnePlus wanted to see, in that you just have a bigger, better sensor. So yeah, you're cropping, but like colors are more accurate. Detail should be better replicated. It should just be able to take in more detail. I'm still oddly obsessed, and I know this is really shallow, but these Hasselblad filters, they just, if you check my review, I've got this picture of a motion blurred tube train going past, but it just makes some of these photos look so much nicer than they have any right to. And I know it's such a hollow thing, these filters, but sometimes if you nail a filter, you're nailing your photos.
I mean, that makes tons of sense. I think the Fujifilm cameras, their digital cameras have, you know, they have their like old film grain filters. And I think, you know, that is one of the things that like really kind of ties back to like, you know, more old school photography. So I get that, definitely.
Yeah. For me, it looks like the differentiation here. If you're looking at $700 Android phones, if you go with a Pixel, you're choosing the Pixel UI, you're choosing cameras as your priority. Whereas if you go to OnePlus, I remember, you know, the UI on OnePlus phones tends to be clean. The cameras are not as good as a Pixel or even a Samsung Galaxy S23 at that price. But you're getting incredible battery life and fast charging, right? It seems like that's what your priority would be.
I think those are the major ones. And I think those are core tenets that people look for in their phone. You know, they want a fast processor that's going to keep going in a few years, and they want a battery that lasts a day plus, or a day at like a festival where you're using maps and using the camera a lot. Like, yeah, I'd be willing to like cast away all kinds of phone features for like 5 more hours battery life for sure.
So you're saying there's nothing on this phone that like you hated that really got in your way of like?
No, but I you know, we were on emails and I was definitely like dreading reviewing this phone. I was just like, it's so
a little behind the scenes for everyone listening or tuning in. Like me and Sam were like, who's gonna review this phone? Me, Sam, and Matt were like, which of the three of us would do this? We're like,
sit through this.
Not it.
And that's like a fair point, because like that those are always the hardest reviews to write, where like a product is decent but there's no like spectacular features to really get excited about.
And like when it's a bad device or any kind of bad review, is actually really fun to write and take something to task. And then when it's amazing, you're impressed and amazed by it. So with the OnePlus 11, like this 100-watt fast charge is amazing. I can't wait for it to get to other phones. I'm not sure if it's in your laundry list of stories for later in this episode, but the Realme phone has now, Realme, which is a subsidiary of a Chinese phone company, I forgot. They've announced a phone with 240 watts. So I think,
wow.
So like within
that makes me uncomfortable. Makes me uncomfortable.
25%, or like it's absolute something even more disgusting, a speed of charging thing. But yeah, this is like, I care more about that than I do about wireless charging.
We're gonna move on to the rest of what OnePlus announced here because this is already a very packed episode. So hey, we saw that OnePlus also launched its very first tablet. I don't know if Matt, do you know what the tablets like standout features are?
Just got an odd aspect ratio, 7:5, which I've never heard of really. And
yeah, that's weird. I mean, like, 4:3 is like kind of standard, and 3, but that's just weird.
It's a very weird
choice.
It's squarish, so I guess it's more like a PC monitor or something. Is maybe what they're going for. But yeah, like a really zippy 11.6-inch display, so more somewhere between mini and an iPad size-wise. 144 hertz refresh rates. But yeah, it's an Android tablet, you know. We don't see them that often, so now it's always interesting when someone does it. It's got a MediaTek chip in it.
Ew.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, some people have got to do these things. Just under 10,000 milliamp hour battery.
I would say a MediaTek chip is like a choice for OnePlus, right? Because they've been like, flagship specs, flagship processor, flagship power above everything, and then they went with a MediaTek chip for their tablet debut.
I don't think they'll say that in the pad. Yeah, I wonder if this is aimed more at the India markets or other countries outside of like Western Europe and the US.
Do we know? Do we know if it's selling? Yeah.
Well, I know that they're going to be showing it off properly at MWC.
Okay.
That's probably when we'll get prices or availability.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I always feel like Android tablets, they never quite found where they were meant to land or meant to exist.
Yeah, it's kind of curious, like why after all this time, OnePlus is like, oh, we're gonna make a tablet now. It's like, okay. I mean, on one hand, I kind of get the MediaTek tip, the MediaTek chip, because for a long time, like MediaTek didn't have the greatest 5G support, especially in the US. And their camera capabilities wasn't quite as high as like the Qualcomm chips, but on a tablet you don't care as much about camera quality, and 5G is nice, but like you're still like not going to be using that all the time. So if you really just want something to power a tablet, as long as the price makes sense, I think really it's going to really hinge on that price.
And we still don't know that yet, right? So that's a big question mark.
Like
here.
Judging by those specs, though, I'd assume. I don't think we know resolution either, and that would be the cost, really, the resolution of the screen. So we don't really know. But one thing I do want to add, they also announced some new kind of pro-level buds, the OnePlus Buds Pro 2, if I put those words in the right order. I think I did. And they come in the tiniest little charging case. They're quite cute. I haven't actually used them for extended period. I tried to find them just now, and that box has gone missing.
How tiny are we talking? Because how much tinier can these things get?
But like that's the thing. Like you've seen like AirPod cases. It's quite a chunky case for tiny pods. But yeah, the OnePlus one it looks like a little tiny box of like mints that your grandpa used to have. It's absolutely tiny. So that's intriguing. They've got active noise cancellation, and they're priced cheaper than even like the Pixel Buds Pro. So you're getting a relatively cheap active noise cancellation from OnePlus. And then the other reveal, because buds are much of a muchness buds are much of a muchness these days. But OnePlus also revealed they're going to launch a keyboard.
A keyboard?
Yeah, mechanical
no, I did not.
Keyboard.
Oh,
with like little like OnePlus-y flourishes, like red accents and like something that looks like the alert slider but is not the alert slider.
Interesting. Do we have details like
Keychron, proper keyboard maker, and that's another MWC thing. Oh, and one final, because this is just the OnePlus News Blast at the moment. The final thing they also said that they have this. Remember how we were saying there's not really a Pro phone? Well, they do have this device they're calling the OnePlus 11 Concept. And apart from saying it has quote unquote imaginative design and quote unquote industry first features, that's all we know.
They always do this, right? Like, I feel like OnePlus has done concept phones before. They're not the only ones. And it feels also like this is after they merged back with their parent company. Was it Oppo? It feels like a very Oppo thing to do these concept phones.
I'm wondering if it's going to be affordable, because Oppo, only a couple of months ago, they announced they had like the Find N2 and the Find N2 Flip. So like their equivalent of Samsung's foldable phones. So I doubt OnePlus would make a foldable immediately after those.
Right. But they would have, It feels like it's on the roadmap, right? It feels like this
Yeah.
branching out into so many product categories is a result of new parent company sort of direction things, right? It's like,
you remember last year when OnePlus was like teasing, like they were like taking pot shots at Samsung for like their foldable thing, and they're like, oh, we have like something to compete with Samsung, and then they released a picture on Twitter that was 2 OnePlus phones with a hinge on it, and it was like, oh,
yeah, I remember
okay.
that. It was so bad.
Yeah, I
That
feel
was
like
bad.
OnePlus is like kind of having like an identity crisis as part of like being reabsorbed back into Oppo. It's like, they do these cycles. There's like, there was that OnePlus McLaren and that concept one at CES a few years ago, and then like now it feels like we're coming back to that. And then like on the other hand, we have that keyboard, which is like, OnePlus is like originally was like devices for like geeks and enthusiasts who like wanted good value, and so that keyboard almost feels like it's catering to that crowd, but they left that crowd behind a long time ago, and now they're like trying to get back into it. So
It's funny you mentioned that as well, like catering to the crowd, because this phone also marks the return, apart from the 10T, but we'll ignore that. Like this is the return of the alert slider in flagship phones, and I could not care less about the alert slider.
I mean, I like it. I don't mind using just the software, but I like the convenience of the hardware switch.
How many times are you going to switch it? What grown
I
up
do
in
it-
2023 is constantly switching between silent and
I'm not
having
constantly
a
switching,
ringtone?
but it's nice to like just be able to do it from the phone, because on the iPhone,
I just feel it's one of those things we like shouldn't even be talking about. They should have just kept it the whole time. OnePlus phones have an alert slider, and that's what it has, and then we can talk about other more interesting stuff.
Yeah, I do not get the appeal.
Speaking of the fans from the past, dude named Charlie in the chat says that they really didn't like the 6T, 7T, and the McLaren. The cameras were not decent. The software is not even close to even Samsung, which that is a burn. That is a deep burn. So geez, I mean, it sounds like dude named Charlie was a big fan, and then now they've driven the core fans, it seems, away, or at least kept them at arm's length, right, with this, and they're now trying to court them back. But we'll see what OnePlus does. Obviously, it sounds like we're going to get more information from MWC, which is happening in something like a couple weeks. So I guess we're back in tech season. Speaking of, hey Sam, how's your review of the Galaxy S23 Ultra going?
Yeah, so our review for the S23 Ultra is live. Go check it out on Engadget.com. We got a written review and a video review. So, there's lots of options for you. And it's weird because this phone just feels like the S22 Ultra Part 2. It's the same design, same screen, new chip, which is great and it's super fast. But once again, I've said this before, no one's really maxing out performance on a phone. There aren't that many apps that like really bring a phone to its knees. So having greater performance on benchmarks is lovely, and the phone feels super smooth and fluid, and it's lovely. And so the main upgrades are a new chip that you get questionable value out of, and a new 200 megapixel sensor, which I really like. But at the same time, you have to work to really get the most value out of that, because by default, you get 200 megapixels and it gets pixel bin 16:1 down to 12 megapixels. And so, you get more light and low light situations like that. But, Samsung's night mode still not quite as good as Google Night Sight. And, for stuff like the expert raw mode and like the astrophotography mode, you really have to be like a big time camera enthusiast to like really get excited about these features, because unless you're taking your photos into like, Lightroom or Photoshop and editing them, you're not always getting the best results. Personally, I found that in bright daylight situations, that full 200 megapixel resolution, great. But, in low light and other stuff, just leave it on the regular 12 megapixel mode and you're going to have a much greater results. You really have to like make sure that the conditions are right, your settings are right. And, if you're going in there and you're the type of person who plays like ISO, shutter speed, exposure compensation, expert raw mode, and that 200 megapixel camera, that's great for you. But for most people, you're going to leave it on that default mode and you're just going to forget about it. And you're not really going to think about it too much. And it's kind of the same thing for a video where, hey, we can do 8K 30 FPS video now, which is great. But honestly, who's taking 8K videos? Who has a display that can watch 8K videos?
Na Hongji.
Yeah. So you're either cropping down because you want to make 4K content or stuff like that, which, is handy. But like, once again, you're like getting to like the more technical aspects of the phone. And so, there's better OIS, which is great. And that's good for everybody. And I love that. But it's one of those things where it's like, similar phone to the S22 Ultra, but a couple nice new upgrades, still expensive, and we still got the S Pen, but no new features. So, it's it's a known quantity in some ways.
I have two questions about the new features part, but I do want to point out that Michael Brescher in the chat says Samsung is entering their S year with the S23 Ultra, which is like,
totally,
yeah, like 100%.
You said.
Yeah. But back to what you said, no new features. So it does seem like a lot of the hardware is remarkably similar to last year, but I did spend a lot of time during my hands-on playing with the One UI 5.1 updates. I don't know if you've used them a lot. Do you like them at all?
They're nice, but it's like they're not, we've seen them before in Android 13, the Material U with the, improved color palettes for the UI. You can choose more accent colors and, change your icons to match everything. Okay, sure. And then, you can have like, it's easier to like clip your face and send it to people, but like, it's still a tiny bit. Yeah, this is right up your alley, Shirley. But it's like, it's still kind of a little janky, faces generally work pretty good, but like I was like trying to clip flowers, not super successful.
Yeah.
It would like get part of the pot and like, it's just, it's a little awkward. And then like, the home screen customization stuff is nice, but like, you're going to play around with that. Like the first time you set up the phone, you're going to spend like a day or two, like, setting everything how you like it. And you're probably not going to change it again. So it's like, how much, is that really a reason to buy a phone? Probably not. And especially because One UI 5.1 is going to get rolled down to the other devices. So like, this is one of those times where it's like, hey, if you have an S22 Ultra, this is not the year to upgrade. If you have an older phone, then we can think about it. But that's kind of how I'm feeling.
And does the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy pair with that 5,000 milliamp hour battery, does that result in a lot of battery life, like a lot more battery life than before?
So we saw about 2.5 hour increase from the previous model. So there definitely is some energy efficiency improvements on that side, which is nice. But unlike the smaller S23 models, we didn't get a bigger battery. So we're just relying mostly on power efficiency improvements year over year based on the new chip.
One last question for you on this, because I haven't even read your review. Before I ask Matt what he thinks, how did the binned pictures compare to S22 Ultra? Right, like the 12 megapixel original ones.
They're good. This is another situation where you're really pixel peeping to like check out the differences because it's like they're nice, but like honestly, unless you're like it's your job, like it is for us, we're going and trying to like look at tiny little aspects, you probably might not notice.
Yeah. Okay, that's my new title now. My new job title: professional pixel peeper. Call me a peeper. I like being a peeper, except for only on professional.
You get arrested for, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well,
so Matt,
it was only pixels.
Yeah, Matt, I wanted to ask you a little bit. It's like you had a chance to like go to the hands-ons and stuff like that. What do you think about like Samsung's kind of strategy with the S23 Ultra? Like, how are you
have one of the
it?
phones, and you have an S23 Ultra. Yeah.
They
gave me one, which is nice. I really do like having the kind of flexibility of this mega camera. It's really weird that we're kind of repeating patterns of smartphones from 8 years ago or so, because this is exactly what HTC, when they did their HTC One phones and Nokia PureView, all this pixel binning stuff, that kind of reached a peak back then, and now we're circling back around with even more megapixels. But the zoom is absolutely incredible. Like when you're really cropping in with the 200 megapixel sensor, it really does work miracles.
It's still one of my favorite lenses. It's my favorite lens on the phone, and I was like a little disappointed to see like no improvements on it. But that said, what you get is great. So it's like it's hard to complain too much about that.
There's nothing that really comes close to it yet. Like either if some other phones do like 10 times optical zoom, then often the sensor behind it is lacking. Like Samsung has the best combination of the two at the moment,
totally
across all these phones. So I really love that. I've never been a long-term note user, so I'm seeing exactly how much I will take notes and stuff. I really love the kind of features it offers, but I could never quite square the size of the device and the price to kind of have that feature I might not use.
Right.
But yeah, like last year was the great, this is the Note Reborn year. So this year, pretty true across all the S23s. It's very much like, yeah, we're just kind of biding our time a bit. We're doing foldables as well. Hey guys, have you seen our foldables? How about those?
Yeah, and there's like a small part of me that wonders, is like, you know, there were some like complaints like before about like smartphones getting boring, and it feels like in a small way, especially in terms of like the standard like glass brick phone, we may have reached like peak smartphone, because like think about it, like, you know, maybe we'll get bigger sensors and maybe we'll get a little bit more optical zoom, but the form factor isn't really changing. The S Pen isn't really changing. And so like that kind of leaves, and we kind of see this in the comments, you know, we get the comments all the time. It's like, yo, when's the new Z Fold coming out? When's the new Z Flip coming out? And I think people are there's more excitement in the foldable space. And I think that's totally okay. Because what we have here in like the 23 Ultra is like, hey, this is peak flagship smartphone, even if it's not a huge improvement over last year. And I think that's okay.
Yeah, totally. And to put it also, Michael Caine put it really nicely in the chat. Michael Caine says, I've always felt that if you're a pixel peeper, then buy a real camera. Like, at which point are we turning our phones into like full DSLR replacements? I mean, that was always kind of what they were saying when they started advancing their cameras on these phones. But maybe there's a point at which, you know, there's a limit. There's a limit to how much. And
I make that point in the review. We're talking about, you know, they brought on Ridley Scott and Nahang Jin to talk about like, you know, hey, we can make Hollywood grade short films with this phone. And I have no doubts about that. But at the same time, they have a director of photography, cinematographers, a whole camera crew, and they have like a camera. And even in Samsung's promos, they show the phone in like a big professional camera cage. They have like external mics, external lighting, you know, gimbals and stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, you know, you can do all this stuff. And in the same way, you can use the new astrophotography mode to like, I'm sure you can get some really cool photos. But I didn't, because I live in the city and, you know, there's light pollution and like real world stuff to deal with. And so if you're the kind of person who's going to go drive out multiple hours to go take a stunning picture, like, you know, going out to Joshua Tree or whatever, you know, don't bring a real camera. If you're investing that much into taking, you know, nice quality astrophotography shots, the S23 Ultra is a nice stand-in, but at some point you're going to realize the limits of this phone and you'll be like, hey, I'm going to need a real camera anyways.
I did see a lot of people post pictures of the moon on Twitter. A lot of S23 Ultra reviewers, they're like, this is a picture of 100x zoom of the moon. I'm like, all right, cool, good for you.
I tried taking pictures of the moon and they didn't turn out that great. So I gotta go back and spend some more time with that. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we yeah, go ahead.
Just like an add-on, really, of the Samsung stuff is when they were kind of pushing these, look at these cinematographers and what they're capable of doing with the Samsung phone. Like, Apple tried that sales pitch several years ago.
Yeah.
That was what, maxing out
we had multiple
1080.
years of like, hey, this shot on iPhone. It's like, okay, we get it. Like, yeah.
Look at this disinterested director who was famous in the 80s, and we paid him millions to endorse this camera with a lot of his own, you know, like you're saying, cranes, professionals, full lighting rig to make this little short. It's it's not even remotely realistic.
Last note, Lucky Dog Podcast in the chat says, time to give the iPhone arms and legs. That's how we will see our phones evolve in the future and soon take over us. Well, on that note, I think this should wrap up our phone chat segment. Clearly, a lot of phone news is going to come up at NWC. We will probably have you back soon to talk about it. Matt, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, guys. Should I stop my recording and send it along?
I think
so.
Yes,
you should.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much for having me, guys, and I'll speak to you all soon.
Hey, thanks for joining.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. We kept Matt a little longer than we should have, but
yeah.
All right, let's jump into the top of the show and take Q&A later on, because we're gonna do a proper like live demo Q&A, y'all. But we see your comments. Hi to everyone. Everyone had great questions. We're going to get to them in a little bit.
Well, KP goes, no thanks. I know how the moon looks. Yeah. Good point. Leave the moon photography to like people with nicer cameras. I don't know.
I'll just want to shout out Sister Satan. That is a very cool name. Is that an anime name? But anyway, Sister Satan said something about curved tablet, curved screen, but also said hi. So hi. Someone also asked when is it going to break in half when Jerry Rick tests it? So yeah. Anyway, we see your things. We see your comments. We'll get back to them. We have a big show. We gotta power through. All right, we good?
We're good.
Everybody ready? Okay. So this week, I would say possibly the most interesting event was Microsoft's secret little thing that they decided to throw in Redmond or Seattle, Washington. And I attended along with our video producer, Brian, or our head of video, actually, Brian O. And it was just like the strangest sort of sequence of events, right? We got like the invite, and then no, they wouldn't tell us what it was about. And then Google out of nowhere announces the Bard chatbot, and then Microsoft is like, "Yeah, our event's about AI too." Yes, totally. And then we're like, "Oh, cool." And then they had Sam Altman tweet out a picture with Satya Nadella and everything. It's like, it's a very strange vibe in the tech industry right now. You've got like Microsoft and Google feeling like they're squaring off. They're kind of like staring down each other. They're about to enter the ring, or maybe they already have. But yeah, no, Sam, I mean, I was at the event. There was no actual keynote live streamed to the public, so we had a live blog. What did you feel about the announcements coming out of Microsoft, like from a distance? Because I was there just trying to like write down everything I was hearing as quickly as I could, so I didn't really parse it a lot during when I was there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is like setting up, or I guess renewing the rivalry in terms of like the AI space. Like people have been talking about AI for a long time, and Google has historically been like the leader in AI. We see this on like the Pixel phones, where you have like a lot of the Google Assistant technology and a lot of like the AI translation and speech recognition, and so that's really interesting. But now, because of like the recent wave of like everyone's talking about ChatGPT, and obviously Microsoft is an investor in OpenAI, which is the creators of ChatGPT. Now it's like, hey, in some ways, OpenAI kind of took the conversation away from Google, and it's like now we're setting up for like, hey, we have Google now has their Bard system, and we have Microsoft partnering with OpenAI and ChatGPT, and so now we have this like really trying to like bolster this thing. And I've seen some like stories out there talking about how like the most important thing you can do in the next 10 years is like learn how to talk to AI. And it's like, okay, that might be overblowing it a little bit, but at the same time it's like at some point being able to use AI to help you in your work is going to be maybe more like using email. It's like something you just have to be able to do.
Yeah, it's very weird because like after I came back, so yesterday after I returned from Seattle, on my Reddit, probably one of the ads was MailChimp going, "Oh, MailChimp's been using AI to write your emails. We got AI that will write marketing emails for you." I was like, now literally everyone and their grandmother is just jumping on the AI hype train. And I really hate it. But I also want to point out that our coworker Carissa Bell tweeted, "Can you imagine a year ago if someone had said that we'd all be hyped for a Microsoft event about the next version of Bing? Like if a year ago someone had said that we would all be hyped AF for a Microsoft event about the next version of Bing." And then she says, "Imagining a Bing exec somewhere deep in the Microsoft office just sobbing uncontrollably right now that Bing is finally getting its moment." I thought that was so funny.
Well, I mean, and you made a interesting point too. It's like, we're in some ways we're like possibly covering something that could make our jobs a little bit less relevant, or like kind of depreciate our skills a little bit. And obviously I'm not as worried because ChatGPT and Bard, they can't touch devices, they can't use devices in the way that other people do. So I'm not worried about ChatGPT writing reviews instead of a person. But at the same time, there is a little bit of that, and it is going to change how online media will work in the near future, and it kind of already is, as we've seen with like the recent debacle with CNET and their AI story writing process. But I guess so you were there. Tell me what you thought about like the coolest new applications of this ChatGPT integration.
Yeah, so we've been talking around the event. I want to tell everyone like what's new, what's different, etc. And not only do I have the first look, I also have access to the new Bing. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. So okay, Really, the best way to think about the news from yesterday is, from this week at Microsoft, is the new Bing and the new Edge. And we'll start with the new Bing. There are 4 areas of updates, really. There's search, answers, chat, and create. Search and answers, first of all, in search, you have the new homepage for bing.com or bing.com/new. And when you're typing into the search box now, it's bigger. It looks more like a Twitter or Facebook compose a post sort of a box, where you have like a character count. You can get up to 1,000 characters. There's a new prompt at the bottom where it'll suggest things that you can ask that are different. The idea is that, like, with search, you're thinking about a more conversational approach. You're not just throwing in keywords like a jumble of like words, right? You're not going like symptoms, allergy, season. You're not doing that anymore. You're gonna be like, is pollen allergy, like, or is running nose a symptom of pollen? Like, that's more of what Microsoft wants you to think about when you're going to Bing now. Then in terms of answers, I mean, it's also fairly straightforward. The layout of the page is slightly different. There are 2 columns now. You have on the left the standard like results that you would normally get, so that's not going away. But on the right, there is a new box for the AI to kind of show you how it did its homework. So if, for example, and also kind of the answers that you're going to get from your new sort of search queries that are more conversational, the answers themselves are also going to be a bit different. So I was pretty impressed by this. One of the demos or the examples they shared at the keynote was like, when you're searching for the dimensions of, let's say, a love seat at IKEA, for example, you're not necessarily looking to see if it will, like, you really want to know how tall it is, right? You're actually looking to see if it'll fit in your home or your car. Right. So Microsoft is all like, now when you ask, now you can just ask, is, you know, home hangers a love seat going to fit in my Honda Civic, you know?
Like,
that's a question
can I bring it home from the store?
Exactly. And then you give it the car model, you're like directly just giving it these parameters, and you don't have to do the comparison yourself. The new Bing will be smart enough to do the math. It'll pull up the specs or the dimensions from IKEA. It'll go to Honda's website and get the like dimensions for the back seat of the Honda Civic. And it will not only like do the math to tell you if it'll fit, but it can also give you suggestions like, hey, it might fit, but you'll have to like put down or fold back the back seats or something. So like, it is smart enough to do that sort of stuff. There's also a bunch of other examples it gave, like, Bing, what events are happening around Super Bowl weekend in Scottsdale? And it was like, oh, there's this show, but there's also a Cardi B event the day before. Or like, it's not only looking for the date of the Super Bowl, but it's looking around it as well. So there's a lot of like contextual stuff is pulling. And this is thanks to the new Prometheus model that Microsoft worked together with OpenAI to kind of develop, right? So it's not like the chat side of, or the generative side of ChatGPT, but it is some of the smarts that it's using for that to draw context and stuff, and then plugging into the answers.
Yeah, so, I was gonna say, I saw in your story how like you made a mention about how like Microsoft showed out how the new Bing can kind of like compare financial reports for like, you know, like Gap versus like another clothing company. And that's like something that like we have to do on a regular basis. Like, oh man, that would be really cool to have, you know, a little bit more info, or just an easier time pulling up relevant financial stats, because, you know, sometimes we're like trying to look at company performance, like then we have to go and find a whole bunch of different sources. And if like, you know, if we can do that for me with less like fewer search queries, then that would be like a legitimately like helpful feature.
Yeah, that was in the Edge portion of my coverage, but you can do that. No, but you can definitely do that with like Bing, just to pull up the results and have it like summarized. But the part where it's sort of like looking at a document and parsing for you, that's happening in Edge, I believe. But we can get to that. The next 2 parts of the new Bing, and I'm going to try to blaze through them, even though they're the most interesting, is chat, right? Chat, basically when you search, when you hit your search query, you submit it, and you get that page of 2 columns of answers, whatever. You can also scroll up or hit the chat button at the top to get the chatbot interface. This is more like you're talking to someone on Messenger or whatever, and it'll first generate the answers you were looking for, but then you can follow up with like, without having to repeat your contextual things. So like, for example, one of the demo queries or one of the queries they suggest that we try was like, come up with a 30-minute workout plan for arms and abs without gym equipment or something, right? So I in my own time, I followed up with how about an hour, like just the words how about an hour, and like the Bing chat interface was smart enough to like, here's what you can do to extend it to an hour, add more exercises.
Oh,
and
that's
then it
cool.
Gave you more yeah. Or it can be like, it was also like, you can also repeat it. You can also just do it twice and then you get an hour. So it's like, it's smart enough to A, not need the context, B, do them and very quickly do all of that too. Like it was fast.
Yeah. And that's something that Google has like talked about before. Obviously different company, but talk about like making AI more natural in terms of like, you don't have to treat it like a computer. You can talk to it more like a person and get more relevant responses back. And I think that's something that like would benefit everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I think Google has been talking about Google wants people to think of its search engine as the answer to your questions, the world's questions, right? And it's wanted you to think of, and that's why it's used the hot words to trigger its speakers the same way. It's not giving its assistant a name, right? Because they want the company wants you to think of the word Google as the answers to everything. So but it feels like Microsoft is getting closer to doing it than Google is right now with this chat interface. I don't know. I mean, Michael Brescher in the chat asked a very good question, which is that like, I wonder if y'all will possibly switch to Edge or Bing personally. I'm like, I'm very fascinated by it right now. I'm still in the midst of testing it. So I have been prioritizing using Bing and Edge, but am I going to switch? We'll put a pin in that question because I want to come back to it. But my early answer is no. I'll tell you why. The last part of the new Bing is create. And this is where Chat GPT's like real powers are really shining through here. So when I said just now, right, like ask the new Bing's chat interface to generate a workout for me, the fact that it can generate a workout pulling from various sources, pulling from like and citing its sources along the way, and then like understanding your parameters and actually meeting all of them, the fact that it can do that is what makes this like that AI co-pilot that Microsoft was talking about here. So I said just now, right? A workout for arms and abs without gym equipment, and then like in 30 minutes for a 30-minute long thing. And it's actually not just replicating an article that's already on the web. It is doing the thinking for you, it's doing the research for you, it's putting the exercises together. It said do 3 sets of 10 of plank or whatever. I mean, not plank, but bicep curls or whatever, right? So it's like, I haven't played with ChatGPT as much, but this is not your standard like tech support chat bot. This is something else entirely. And I mean, I can go into detail about the interface and stuff, but I think you can get the detail from reading the hands-on or watching the video on Engadget.com. But yeah, so far, I mean, the new Bing with all of these things seems very powerful. Sam, are you keen to try any of these new features out?
I between this and some of the creator studio stuff that Microsoft is doing with DALL-E in terms of like making AI generative art, I'm like I'm getting more interested and I was just thinking like, you're asking the question like, oh, are you going to switch to Bing or Edge? And it's like not full time, but maybe now I'm going to put it on my taskbar so that it's I have. And so, I use Bing every once in a while for work stuff. And so it's like, hey, if I can switch to Bing because, it does better for pulling up some sourcing or for information. It's like, hey, it's just another resource. And I think that's actually kind of useful.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like the other examples that were given were like coming up with the itinerary. Also, you can also just tell the chat like, hey, come up with dinner ideas. I only have spinach, tofu, and like breadcrumbs left. And it'll actually just find you recipes that will make use of those 3. And like, just so many ways to think about interacting with Bing now. I am going to do what you said, which is to make it more of a alternative to Google than it was before, right? I will not resort to using Bing as the new verb for searching. Like, let me Google that for you. Let me Bing that for you. I mean, I
still don't agree with that Bing choice naming. It has sat wrong with me for years.
Okay.
But it's too late to change it now, I guess.
Well, do you like the name Edge for a browser?
Not really.
Okay, well, that's what we have. The new Edge actually is fairly similar in the sense that what it is you've just got the new Bing sort of integrated into the window. So I had to download this through the developer channel, but I'm also whitelisted, so the features are live for my account. And the new Bing's features, I have been reading in some places that you need to use Edge to be able to access the new Bing, which is interesting choice. But I feel confident that approach will change over time. Like, I think this is just for the demo or the preview. I'm sure over time Chrome users can still go to the new Bing. But anyway, for now in Edge, when you click a B sort of shape in the top right, it'll pull out the chat window, but you also have options to switch over to a compose window. The chat window is really where, like you said earlier, Sam, where like I can get Bing's help on documents that I'm viewing or websites that I'm browsing. So like the Gap financials page, I could say parse this for me or summarize this document for me. And like that's super cool. Like, and you can use it on your Office 365, your online Word documents as well.
Right. So it almost seems like you have cliff notes for like everything now, which is like which is super helpful.
Yeah, right. That's exactly what it is. I mean, I feel like I've only barely scratched the surface of what's possible here. Like the only demo I've really done is to summarize the financial statement, which when I had to cover Apple's earnings would have been very helpful. Like give me the key financial highlights, then I would see. And then you can just ask it to do for you compared to last year's, and then it'll show you those results, right? Like I don't need to go and pull up another PDF and then switch tabs back and forth. You can ask it to create a table to compare the numbers between companies.
It's streamlining the process of gathering information, which I think is something that a lot of us struggle with, at least in the being reporting or journalism industry.
Or you're comparing like pet vacuums to buy. You're comparing like what your next car purchase should be. It just so far feels very smart. Now the last part that I want to talk about today anyway is the compose page in the Edge sort of Bing window. You can use the compose page to come up with emails, posts, and that sort of stuff, which is again I think what ChatGPT has generally been used for. So this will be familiar to anyone that's I guess tried ChatGPT. The main difference here is built into your browser, and you don't need to wait around to get a chance to shoot a query into ChatGPT. This is the new Bing. So it says like, tell me what you want to write about. So you have like a box of, I want to say a few hundred characters of space to tell it what you want to write. And the demo that like the example we used was like, convince my coworker to come on this work trip with me. You can choose the tone, which is funny, professional, enthusiastic, or two other options I'm not remembering right now.
Sure. What's the tone that you would pick for your style?
I chose funny, and it did sound a little bit more like me.
Okay.
I would never use professional. I don't think that's my style. But you can go with enthusiastic, informational, casual, or funny as well. You can choose what thing you're trying to write. So it's an email, a blog post, a paragraph, or a list of ideas. And then you can also choose from lengths. So short, medium, or long. Now we picked medium at first. And I will say like with medium, you get a lot more filler content. Like in the length of a medium email was like 6 paragraphs long. 3 of those paragraphs were like, here are some sites in Microsoft, in Seattle. There is the there's the snow quality falls. Here's all the things we can do. Like a lot of felt like just not, I mean, it is relevant content, but not stuff that I would necessarily include.
Sure.
So I didn't hit long to see what else it would add to pad that out, but then I went back to short and it felt more concise. So I don't know. I am in awe because I think partly because I haven't spent that much time with ChatGPT, so this is kind of fresh to me. Have you spent any time, Sam, with ChatGPT at all?
A little bit. It's one of those things that's like I'm interested in, but it's like it's hard for us to use because like we can't really use it for our writing because that's just not something that like it's not very ethical of us. But it's so I'm like trying to find places where like I would want it to generate reports that would be useful to me, and so it's like I see the value in it, but it's like I need a little bit more from it if that's you know what I mean.
I think I hear you in the sense that like I mean in my video for the hands-on I said I'm the sort of person that takes delight in crafting. Even my invitation to my birthday party last year was extremely long, full of like personal anecdotes and jokes and that sort of thing. That's my thing.
I was gonna say you've become well known for your out of office emails, where I'll have other people write to me when you're off. It's like, oh, sure, Lynn's out of office email is really funny. It's like, okay, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, people like to like they'll get my out of office email, then they'll reply. I love that. I'm not gonna see it until I get back.
It's like,
cool.
That's the thing to let you know I'm not here.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I love to write. So I think that's not going to be super useful to me. But I mean, if you are tuning in, watching or listening to this now, and you can see yourself using this feature of the new Edge to create something, to write something for you, let us know what you would want it to do. Like, I just have no real understanding right now of like what people would like. So send us an email, podcast@engadget.com, or leave us a comment in the chat if you're watching. So yeah, no, overall though, I think one last thing I do want to point out before wrapping up on Microsoft is that they, spent some time talking about responsible AI and being ethical about AI design. And I think it's important to have these conversations and thoughts. Sam Altman was at the event as well. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, reiterated and reemphasized several times that, like, together with Microsoft, they're both partners. Both companies are constantly thinking about the ethics here. We had I think one of the demos or one of the panels after the actual keynote, there was a panel on responsible AI, and I can't remember if it was at this panel or it was like in a Q&A session during the keynote where the responsible AI lead at Microsoft brought up a point where, like, we want to be very careful about how this is being used. We don't want the new Bing we want to be able to identify when someone is using it for nefarious purposes, for example, planning a shootout, planning some kind of criminal activity. And they went as far as to use the words like, for example, at a school. Right. And that immediately sends warning signals everywhere. We're like, whoa, what? Like, you didn't think about this. Like, we don't think about this until we're like, oh, right. Nefarious purposes. Right. And Microsoft is aware, at least. Right.
And I think that's a good point, because, like, for a long time, like, people were just trying to, hey, let's try to make this thing work. And now we're kind of at the stage where we're trying to refine these things in order to be able to use them responsibly, because, there's the idea of the technology, and then there's how it actually gets used in the real world. And those are two very different things.
Yeah. So I don't think that Microsoft had any very like good answers for how, like, but in that example they said that their systems would be aware. They're constantly training the systems to be aware of these situations and to flag. It's not clear yet what the action taken would be if it did identify one of these searches was happening. But basically they don't want their version of Bing or ChatGPT or whatever AI they're coming up with being used for these purposes. It's really worth pausing to think about. And I think we're going to see more of these conversations. I'm sure a lot of reporters are already furiously writing stories and articles about it. So I will keep an eye out as well. Let's move on to Google, which also had an event, but I don't want to spend too long because this was basically Google's Search On event that it does usually in the middle of the year every year, but this time around it did it in Paris in February. Before its event, though, Google unveiled, like 2 days before the Paris event, it was like, oh, by the way, we are also making an AI chatbot. It's called Bard. It's going to use Lambda too. But then very quickly after, it was revealed that the Bard chatbot was confidently spouting misinformation on Twitter. Of course. And it was like amazing. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, it's like, of course, you think these things are like, we're still very much in development, and these AIs aren't even like toddler level AI yet, right? So it's like, they're going to be saying stuff, and you got to watch out. It just like, really reminds you, it's like, hey, let's just take a step back. They're still working on this. And I think this kind of points to a little bit of how Google was actually caught off guard by the introduction of ChatGPT. And they're kind of on the back foot, which feels weird for Google, but they're kind of on the back foot when it comes to, hey, we need a rival out that people, that there's an alternative to ChatGPT. Yeah. And so that's what Bard is supposed to be, but it's obviously still very much a work in progress.
It's so funny to me because it felt like Google was being very reactive in this whole debacle where we know Lambda 2 has been around. We know that at Google I/O last year, Google even had demoed its app where it's allowing people to test out Lambda 2. I forget the name of the app, but some kind of kitchen, AI kitchen or something. So it was there. It did like stake a flag or something, but then this week it was, I don't know, reacting to things. And so what happened here, to give people the rundown of events, is that Google announced a Bard chatbot and then posted an advertisement, I think, to Twitter, which is, and the ad itself was a short GIF. I know y'all say GIF, but I say GIF. An example of a Q&A with Bard, right? And so the question that the user asked was, what new discoveries from the James Webb Space Telescope can I tell my 9-year-old about? The response from Bard was 3 ideas. And the last of these ideas says, JWST took the very first pictures of a planet outside of our own solar system. These distant worlds are called exoplanets. Exo means from outside. So, that's not true. The JWST didn't take the very first pictures of exoplanets. The European Southern Observatory's Very Large Telescope, or VLT, was the first to do that in 2004. So there we go. Like, you would think Google has all of the information, but sorry, Bard just doesn't have access to it, maybe. That was kind of funny, right?
Right.
I mean, we were just talking about the whole like dangers of AI. We just didn't realize how kind of bad it can be. And we did see, right? ChatGPT was like plagiarizing or like also misquoting a lot of things when in its earlier days. So this seems like some of the earlier problems we're going to face with AI, but obviously.
Yeah, and I mean, in general, like, relatively innocuous flub, but it really actually puts more pressure on fact checking even more because you can't just take what these AIs are saying for granted. So, it's very important to be like, hey, there's still a balance. You can't switch to AI, derived sourcing for everything just yet.
Which is kind of sad because like then if I'm still going to have to like fact check your work, why am I doing it's double work almost, right? But I think eventually we'll reach the point where like I guess we trust it as much as we trust the Google search results that we do right now. But so that was just some of the like Bard news this week, but at its event in Paris, Google did announce some news that I'm just going to like kind of blaze through right now. Google Maps search with live view is coming to Barcelona, Dublin, and Madrid. The Maps immersive view is rolling out in 5 cities. And that's pretty much it. I mean, this is your typical sort of like search and map focused events, except because it's not the typical time of year that they tend to do this. This felt more like a region specific set of updates. It was, here are some European only updates coming to Maps and live view. So I felt kind of meh. Sam, I don't know if you were paying attention to this. I was traveling while the event happened.
Yeah, I think this is kind of an update because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the immersive view stuff was announced at Google I/O last year.
Yes.
And so this is just like, hey, we're still working on it. We're rolling it out to more cities, which is cool because I think, we've had it in New York City for a little while. So it's cool to have that, be available in more cities. But, not, this is not a game changing update. It's kind of a helpful update to let you know, hey, here's how progression and development is going.
Yeah. So it was good to see. But again, it didn't feel like Google actually had any real AI news to share. It was just kind of pulling the trigger on something that it was not ready to fully unveil yet. So I'm sure we'll learn more probably at Google I/O this year, which typically happens early May. So we'll be covering it. That's for sure. You can come back to Engadget to learn more. Let's pause here to do a quick demo. I think we're going to try to cut short the other news section after this. Okay. Where we will talk about most of the things, but not spend as much time on them.
Yeah, just go through it quickly.
Exactly.
Cool.
So yeah, okay, chat. What do you want me to ask the new Bing? And I saw, I've seen some of your questions and comments. Darren N said Google had a terrible AI presentation yesterday on their YouTube channel. The sound didn't work half the time. Oh my God. What the hell? I will also, by the way, be sharing my screen once we start getting some of these queries in. Let me just set that up so y'all can see this thing react live in real time.
So KP says, Bing, write me a State of the Union speech.
Oh boy, that will take too long.
Yeah,
Let me
what is the
just
lag
choose the
time
screen.
on putting in a query to the Bing Chat GPT?
Not much at all. I mean, it does take some time to think. But let me just pull up the actual screen so that I can share it to the stream right now. I have so many windows, I need to choose one. There is some lag. I don't know that it is dependent on the computer you're using, but
we're talking about a few seconds, not like way less than a minute.
I mean, there is like sort of a process or progress indicator that shows you. Oh, I was like looking at the wrong thing. I'm sorry. That shows you how that is working, right? So that there's not such lag there, I guess. But Julio, did you get my feed?
Sister Satan said, write a haiku about the meaning of human life. That's good. Bruce Leo says, let's try the same James Webb Space Telescope question that
that's a good one.
Bard messed up.
Okay, so I'm going to bing.com. I'm sharing my screen now. Let me know if you all see it.
Yes. Well, I mean, I see it.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to try.
Confirm that you can see Sherlin's screen sharing.
If y'all can see the screen, great. Right, I'm going to do the human life one first. But that maybe we will go to the create page.
I'm curious if Microsoft will be able, or OpenAI will be able to do a haiku format. Like that seems interesting because you have to. It's one thing to like how many the number of syllables and what that is, but then it's like combining that seems difficult.
Yeah, I don't know that one of the options was a haiku, but we'll see because it was supposed to be a paragraph. Now it's taking a while. So it's just giving me answers now to that because this is not one of the formats. A poem is not one of the formats. Is
Okay.
But it's written Matsuo Bashio's haiku over here. Let's do another. Do we have another good one?
Do you
Sam,
know the wording for the James Webb Space Telescope, the Space Telescope
I have it
question?
in a post. Yeah.
Okay.
What can I tell my 9-year-old about the James Webb Space? So over here, we're going to close the screen right now. You're going to see that box on the right that it's showing you it's still doing the work, right? And then here is it's sort of on the right there, the chat answers. And then so if you want, so you can see these are the standard results on the left, and then you've got on the right the chat style results. Now I'm going to swipe up, and this pulls up the chat screen. And you can see it's the same thing that was in that box just now, except for in this chat window now. So let's see if it pulled the wrong information. The information looks. I can't tell you if it's accurate.
I was gonna say we're not space geeks as much as some of the other people on staff, so it's gonna be hard for us to like fact check this fully. Just read out the top three responses.
Yeah, it is as tall as a 3-story building and as long as a tennis court. It's so big that it had to fold like origami to fit inside the rocket that launched it into space. It can see light that is invisible to human eyes, called infrared light. We can feel infrared light as heat. Firefighters use infrared cameras to see through smoke, and the James Webb Space Telescope uses infrared cameras to see through dust in space. So here's the other thing that's cool is that it cites its sources as it goes.
That's
and
good.
Everything else that is not necessarily citing is stuff that it, came up with on its own, right? So it's pretty cool.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at the chat. Rob Langley has a couple of great suggestions.
I love that. I saw that one. Yeah.
Short wedding vows for Kermit the Frog to get married to Miss Piggy if he gets married to Miss Piggy. But even better, write an email to convince Dev to mainline a Chromebook.
Let's open this. Something is up. I can't open the thing. Hang on.
I was gonna say, if you ever want to see someone yell at an AI, I think that's a good way to do it. Ask Dev to mainline a Chromebook.
Yeah, that's not ever happening. Let's see. Can I? Come on, open. Click. Nope. Oh no.
Live demos, baby.
Yeah.
So can you confirm that the processing that like the Bing sidebar is doing is being done on your local machine?
I can't confirm that. I don't think it's on device. Why would it be? I don't. Yeah. Based on the fact that I've used various different machines and the response rate has been similarly fast.
Okay.
I would say it's cloud.
Yeah,
okay. So write an email. This is not the correct use of it. Normally I would go up to the bar, but let's see. Write an email convincing Devendra Hardawar to use a Chromebook. Let's see what it does. I don't think it's going to I'm gonna search myself later on. I'm gonna be like, hey, by the way, it started. Yeah. Oh my god. Oh my god. I didn't even say Engadget, but okay. Y'all want to copy and paste this and send it to Dev?
Absolutely. Put it in Slack, put it somewhere where we can save it.
All right, here's a possible email. Hi, Devendra. I hope this email finds you well. I'm writing to you as a fellow tech enthusiast and a fan of your work at Engadget. I noticed that you're a loyal Windows user and that you may have some reservations about Chromebooks. I understand your concerns, but I think you might be missing out on some of the benefits of Chrome OS. Here are some reasons why you should give Chromebooks a chance. Fast, secure, easy to use, affordable, versatile, compatible, and adaptable. Kyle, did Google write this? Like, what are we talking? As you can see.
So I was gonna say, is this the best new way to troll your coworkers? Because I'm just gonna like ask them to write stupid prompts for everybody.
They even included like Chromebook models. Okay. Convince. Wait. Write an email convincing Sam Rutherford. God, what do you hate? That.
I'm just waiting for this one now.
Are great. Oh my gosh.
Wait, what are you trying to convince me of?
Selfies are great. See the email? It says, why you should love selfies. Hi, Sam. I hope you're doing well and having fun with your gadgets. Oh, I'm writing to you as a fellow tech lover and a reader of your articles at Gizmodo.
Ooh.
Okay.
Out of date info.
Wrong there.
Yeah, slightly wrong. It goes, here are some reasons why you should embrace selfies. They are a way of expressing yourself and your personality. They're a way of connecting with others and sharing your experiences. They are a way of boosting your confidence and self-esteem. They are a way of having fun and being creative. As you can see, they have a lot of benefits and are not just a fad. I mean, this still reads kind of awkward, let's be honest. But let's take more. Yeah.
But you've actually just gotten the AI to do your work for you.
Yeah.
I mean, ChatGPT has like really big, like fourth grade, like in this essay, I will be arguing that like really huge fourth grade essay energy.
Okay, so Tom Rogers in the chat says, how does it look on a phone? I don't have the mobile version of this yet. You might actually have to install the Bing app to be able to use it. I haven't done that. Been using it mostly on the laptop. I see that dude named Charlie says these new AIs are the very definition of fake it till you make it. Darren N says no excuse not to write thank you notes anymore. They're going to make a comeback.
Ooh,
Rob
that's good. Helping automate being nice to other people. That's like a actually kind of like weirdly positive thing.
Okay, so I saw this really interesting idea that like someone on TikTok was talking about the idea that like every new technology brings back an old technology. So like they were mentioning how like podcasts have brought back like the long form radio interview. And so of course I was interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were saying like, okay, with ChatGPT and these chatbots to just auto generate stuff, what is the old technology that's going to be brought back kind of accidentally? And I think that it's going to be like her the movie style notes.
Sorry, I'm having too much fun. I'm asking Bing to write a letter to convince Engadget viewers, that is you out there, to come back and watch next week's live stream. Dear Engadget viewers, thank you for tuning in to our latest podcast episode. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. We appreciate your support and feedback. We are writing to you to invite you to come back and watch our next week's podcast live stream. We have some exciting topics and guests lined up for you, and we don't want you to miss it. Okay.
Wait.
We will.
So we can replace the outro for the show with this.
Yeah.
Kind
Oh my
of.
gosh, it's straight up making up stuff right now, right? It goes, we will review the latest gadgets and tech news such as the Apple AirPods 3, the Google Pixel 6, and the Facebook Meta rebranding. That's like from 2 years ago. Fine. We will interview the CEO of Spotify and ask him about the future of music streaming. We will discuss the ethical and social implications of artificial intelligence. That is good, but then it goes with the renowned author and speaker Yuval Noah Harari. We will answer your questions and comments live on air and give away some cool prizes and discounts. I don't think we do that. So,
So you can see how it's like it has the generally good idea, but it's like when it tries to do too much, you can see where it's like, oh, okay, don't name specific. It was good until it started trying to name specific like topics and stuff.
Exactly.
Like, how would the AI even? We don't even know that.
I know. Does anyone in the chat have other good queries for me? Come on. Come on, people.
I just had this idea of like write a YouTube script in the voice of Michael Fisher saying that dumb phones are excellent.
Okay, I also saw one about the next big change in mobile phone tech will be. So let's go. So here's you see this little broom button over here. It clears all the context from before, and it sort of just cleans things up a bit. So I'm going to use it here, and I'm going to say, what will the next big change in mobile phone tech be? And then we'll do the script by Mr. Mobile. Okay, so
I feel like this is going to be where the AI really struggles because you're asking it to predict the future, and that's something that like hard for humans. How is a an AI going to be able to do it?
Okay, yeah. I mean it's doing okay so far. 5G, foldable phones,
Internet of Things. I mean, these are just some of the possible changes. Of course, there could be other innovations and prices that we don't know yet. What do you think of these changes? Do you have any preferences? And then it's asking me, it's got these like prompts as to like what I think, right? As an answer. I don't care about megapixel count. I care more about camera quality. Which like, so if you ever get tired and you don't want to wait for it, I mean, you can see now, this is happening live over our live stream and the response time is pretty quick. So
yeah.
And then we're going to ask, okay, let me clear a new topic again.
And that's sort of interesting because those predictions aren't like, they're not, you don't even need to be a soothsayer to come up with those. These are predictions that have been floating around, in tech media for the last couple of years. But it's interesting that it does doing a pretty good job of kind of gathering those topics and ideas and putting them in one place.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Okay.
It still feel to me like I've seen friends in school, especially in like middle school, like literally just like half-ass projects by like copying and pasting stuff that they found on the internet. That's
it's
doing
totally. It feels like a very surface level introduction. Okay, what now?
Did y'all see that this script for Mr. Mobile's talking about weird phones? It goes, hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Mr. Mobile. Today we're taking a look at some of the weirdest phones ever made. These are devices that defy convention, challenge, blah, 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 right? It's pretty good. It's done a good job. It brings up the Nokia 7600, the Samsung Serene, the LG Wing, okay? Then it ends with "Stay mobile, my friends." I'm like, holy shit.
Wow, we got the tagline.
That's when I went, oh my God, y'all.
Okay, so next time we have Mr. Michael Fisher on, we're going to use this again, and we're going to have him read the script that ChatGPT generates.
That is incredible. Someone, I think it was Buddy305 Love, asked to have it convince me that rats are cool. We're not going to do that. And also, we're running
I don't know if anyone can convince Sherlyn that's true.
No. Rats are not cool. Screw y'all. Anything else I could ask the new Bing for you, or should we do another live demo another day? Y'all leave us a note in the chat. I saw someone mention that my eyes look sad today. I have a sty, so my eyes are sad today. And yeah, if you have, I'll do one last demo before we go back to the rest of the episode because we're really running short on time. Do you have one, Ben?
No, that was my one idea, the Mr. Mobile thing.
I liked it.
I was gonna say this actually kind of ties into other news a little bit too.
Yes, fantastic. We'll jump right into it. This is my last thing.
You like that segue? I tried.
Yeah.
I think you did good. Oh my gosh! Apparently, I have a lot of followers on Twitter. Where did that come from? I don't actually have a lot of followers on Twitter, but thanks.
A lot
all
of
right.
followers is relative.
Exactly. I don't think I have a lot of them.
You have a lot compared to me.
Yeah, I don't have. I'm still in like 4 digits. I need that 6-digit money, you know? All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. But if y'all want more of this, you let us know. We may be able to do another demo another time. All right. Let's get back to the episode. Thanks to everyone. Michael Brusher says they're out of ideas. You know what? Me too. I was just
Big
feels
thanks
like-
to Bing and Edge AI.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I can't wait to do a demo where we like pull another company's financial results and I'll show you those. Those are actually super cool. All right. Back to the show, Ben.
Yes.
Okay. What was your segue, Sam?
Oh, and so we're transitioning from one AI to another AI, kind
Yeah,
of
there you
messing
go.
up a little bit.
Do you want to take it? Do you want to just take the
No,
transition and lead
go
us
for
into
it.
other news? No, do it.
Okay. So after we looked at some AI from Microsoft and Google, now it's time to talk about other news. And the first story is another kind of issue where AI is kind of flubbing, kind of messing it
Oh.
up here. So there's a channel on Twitch called Endless Seinfeld, and they use a AI to kind of do a kind of spoof of classic Seinfeld episodes. Unfortunately, this one kind of got messed up because they were using ChatGPT to kind of source where the material came from. However, during one of the stand-up bits, they were having an issue with the speed of ChatGPT, so they decided to downgrade to a less sophisticated model. It's the Curie model that ChatGPT uses. It's not their like flagship AI model. And then suddenly it started doing some transphobic and kind of making fun of homophobic speech jokes.
No.
And obviously, the people caught it and the channel got shut down. It got banned for 14 days. But this is like kind of like a really good point of showing how this is the evolution of AI and AI chat conversation ability, just because, people created these things and they work and they can do some functions, but there's a lot of issues with them. And so, part of the thing with ChatGPT's most recent model is that they refuse to use hate speech and hate language as part of their AI programming. And so this is, kind of you can see the evolution of the AI's functions and capabilities and their thought process in terms of being more ethical and responsible about how they present information.
I mean, yeah, it's exactly what we were kind of closing out the last section thinking of, right? Where we were saying we had to be responsible when designing AI. There's a way to design AI ethically as well. And this just goes to show like the many layers that are necessary to that conversation. So I thought it was cool. This is speaking of AI really quickly, I think I said this on the pre-show where we were just like getting ready for this stream, but I saw an ad on my Reddit for MailChimp that was like, yo, I know you all like AI, but we also use AI to come up with marketing emails and MailChimp. I was like, all right, way to jump on the bandwagon. I can't wait to see like, yeah.
And some publishers like the AP have been using AI to kind of help write financial reporting articles because they're just pulling numbers from a PDF. And so, there have been, sort of niche applications of this before, but now it's like really starting to pick up steam.
Right. So anyway, again, it's clear that we need to pay more attention to AI. It's just really, the train's just gaining speed here. We're going to have to follow it. Now, Google is one of the big companies in AI, but this week was all like, yo, we don't care. We want to tell you a lot of other news too. We're like, look, here's some search news. Here's some maps news. Here's some AI news. Also, hey, Android 14. It's only February. Preview. Yeah, but we're getting the first developer preview of Android 14. Obviously, with the first developer preview, you don't generally get like a lot of heads up about what actual new features are coming. But this time around, with this developer preview, we can see that the focus is on improving or having more inclusive language be part of like the available toolkits for developers, as well as the ability to hit a bigger maximum font size. So that's good for people who have low vision, who want to be able to magnify or just use bigger fonts for when they're using their phones. So it also can do other things like block users from side-loading apps that are way too old, which I think is pretty bad news for me because we run on one of our battery test apps is a very old app that we use sideload. But maybe
Another reason to update our testing regime.
we really need to. We should. So the fonts thing, you can scale them to a much larger size. You can scale them 200% now as with the Android 14 developer preview versus the earlier 130%. And then it's easier to set preferred languages for apps, and developers can be more accommodating to people who speak gendered languages and allow them to use like inclusive languages in those gendered languages. So there you go. And then we want to, like I said, there's so much news that happened this week. Sam, did you watch Nintendo Direct?
I watched part of it. There's more info on the next sequel to Breath of the Wild, so that's really exciting. The Metroid, there's a remaster for Metroid Prime Trilogy, which is out now, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff. Obviously, coverage is on the site, so there's too much stuff to really go deep into.
Yeah, Canon also announced a $680 EOS R50 camera, which is the most affordable RF camera yet. Also, Netflix launched its password sharing limitation things in Canada, New Zealand, Portugal, and Spain. So you might, if you're in one of those countries, you might have been seeing the alerts that say, your household is your physical location. You can't whatever. But it seemed like earlier this week, Netflix had been wavering on this cracking down on US-based password sharing.
Yeah,
so
it seems like they walked back that the plan to roll out the password sharing blocking. They removed that language from one of their facts on their site. So I think they're still working on it, but it's unclear exactly when this is going to happen.
So it seems like at the very least, outside of the US, a few countries are already seeing this happen. Speaking of streaming, Disney Plus and its earnings report or earnings release this quarter shared it lost 2.4 million subscriptions, and it is the first subscriber loss ever for the company, or at least for the streaming service, which is like Disney Plus was the upstart, right? The late to the game, but everybody started subscribing.
I think they already have over 100 million subs, so this is not a huge loss for them. But it kind of points to the fact that the streaming wars are very much still going on, and Disney in general hasn't been able to profit on Disney Plus, and so they're doing a big restructuring in terms of their financials and their capex expenditure and all that. So we'll see how that shift affects Disney going forward.
And is planning to lay off 7,000 people, 7,000 of its workers, which is, I guess. I'm trying to figure out like which segment we're talking about in terms of these layoffs. Where are they going to be coming from? It just says it's planning a significant restructuring, including job cuts. The layoffs will affect 7,000 employees. The company froze new hiring in November. It doesn't share exactly what departments these layoffs are going to affect, but That's not great news. And it's also following a trend that we've been seeing in tech so far. Hey, speaking of dumpster fires, Twitter this week too was like, there's no rest for the weary, right? The Twitter was like, poor Carissa had to be like following all this news. It said earlier, late last week or early this week, that it was going to charge for API access, which then caused a cascade of issues because it didn't realize that the API that it was allowing people to use was the same one that powered a lot of different programs and software out there.
Right. So when they turned off API access, they turned off API access for Twitter main as well.
Yeah.
And so yesterday, including me, people were getting messages like, hey, you can't tweet because you're over the tweet limit. And the tweet limit is like 2,400 tweets a day. So
Whoa.
I tweet like once, maybe twice a week. And so I was doing my once a week tweet and I couldn't do it. I'm like, oh, this just doesn't make any sense. And there's some other issues like DMs. You couldn't pull up your DMs and people weren't able to follow each other. And so there was just a whole host of issues. They were able to fix the tweeting itself issue relatively quickly, but things are just clearly a mess inside Twitter. Yeah.
Part of the issue of wanting to charge for API access was that Twitter said it wanted to kind of, I guess, minimize bots on the site and improve the quality of the platform. But then a few days ago, it kind of changed tack again and said, no, we'll keep the API access free for the good bots. What are good bots? Like, How are they determining
But
what good bots
this has
are?
been the story of the new Elon led Twitter, where
Yeah.
hey, it's like we're gonna do this thing, and then we're just like, oh, this is a bad idea. We have to walk. It's like when they started charging for the check marks, and they're like suddenly you had people impersonating companies and big name
Yep.
celebrities. I was like, oh, now we got to walk that back. And then Elon's
Yep.
whole message when he was buying Twitter was like, oh, we want to encourage free speech. Okay, but then you shut down the Elon Jet guy, and
Yep.
so like clearly this is like that's not okay, but we still want to encourage free speech. And
Yeah.
oh hey, we want to cut down on bots, but oh, some of the bots made Twitter funny, and we got want to bring those back. Clearly not a lot of great strategizing or planning going on in Twitter right now.
Yeah.
And we're feeling the effects on a day-to-day basis.
And to bring those 2 points together, KP in the chat says Elon Jet is a good bot. Like, that's a good bot that should get the API access, the Elon Jet, but no. So yeah, no, like we said over and over, it's been a strangely busy week at the start of February, and we're going to try to get some rest this weekend.
Speaking of interesting new stuff, that's another yet big thing that's happening this week. I guess we're moving to around Engadget now. Is the new Harry Potter game Hogwarts Legacy came out, and it broke records on Twitch for the most viewed single player game on Twitch ever.
Wow.
Yesterday on February 7th at 1.3 million viewers.
That is wild. I've heard a lot of good things about this game. I think Jess, our senior writer, Jess Condit, also wrote a piece, and she published a piece earlier this week explaining why she decided to do the review at all. I know that this game is mired in controversy. And any part of the Harry Potter franchise has been mired in controversy. And I do want to say that, like, you should read her article. I think it explains very clearly Jess's stand. No one is disagreeing that J.K. Rowling is a transphobic, awful person. But there are discussions to be had around how we separate art from the artist, or, the question the ownership or the feelings of belonging you can feel to a fandom and a community without necessarily contributing to a person that started the content or
the personal views or opinions of the original creator. And it's really interesting because by all accounts, I haven't played this game yet, but by all accounts, everyone's loving the game. The review scores have been really high and people are really enjoying it. And they say it really delivers on what people have wanted from a Harry Potter video game for so long. And it really does a good job of transitioning from the movie series to a video game series, which is something that's like not actually, we've seen so many things flop when it comes to, hey, we're going to try to adapt a video game from a movie. But it seems like they did a good job with this one. Unfortunately, because of those issues with J.K. Rowling, it's harder to get into than people, you might think otherwise.
Yeah. Also around Engadget this week, Roberto Baldwin, one of our coworkers, got a hands-on with the Mercedes e-Sprinter. Robbie's videos are always a fun time, so go check it out on the Engadget YouTube channel. It looks like a really cool looking electric van with some like colorful paint on it. If you're into vans, van life, #van life, baby. Go check it out.
Yeah, and I think the e-Sprinter is really cool just for the simple fact that, hey, it's basically the same thing as the gas e-Sprinter. Everything, the dimensions are very similar, but now you can have a battery. It's over 100 kilowatt hours.
Oh, wow.
And so, you talk about people, you want to, travel around the country in your van, you can do that, in a more, a greener way while still being able to have a lot of the accessories and stuff work on this new vehicle.
Nice. All right, moving on to what we are working on. I am back to review mode, I guess. I received the Amazon Halo Rise. If you recall, it was announced last October. It took this long for the company to ship it out. This is the bedside sleep detecting device without a camera. It's also kind of a bedside lamp, and I need one of those. So this is this is great. I've moved into a new place, don't have a bedside lamp. So I'm just like, great.
Did you get curtains yet?
Not for my living room.
Oh boy.
a lot of I'm also working on my personal life. So there we go. How about you, Sam? What are you working on?
Now that the S23 Ultra review is out the door, moving back to the PlayStation DualSense Edge controller, and there's a bunch of new laptops coming out featuring NVIDIA's latest mobile RTX 40 series cards. So expect a bunch of laptop reviews, in the near future.
When we were talking about how we need to take a break, and this is usually the best segue into our Engadget picks, and this time is Engadget pop culture picks. For this week, I'm going to suggest people watch Junji Ito's Maniac on Netflix. It is Japanese Tales of the Macabre. I don't know if you've seen this, Sam. I see you're nodding.
I have not seen this, but Junji Ito's Holes is one of the most terrifying comics I've ever read, and like that comic will just like lives rent free in my mind all the time, because every once in a while I'll think about it, it's like, oh man, I'll just like get the shakes, like, oh that's so Junji Ito has a very like unique style, and so you gotta like sometimes I feel like I gotta like mentally prepare myself to like engage with his content, but I mean,
so weird. It's so okay. So Junji Ito's Maniac is just like a series of like, I don't know, even like 15 to 30-minute episodes of like stories of weird shit. It's just this really weird. I won't spoil any of it for you because I feel like just explaining anything really gets like strange. But just to describe for you what we're seeing on our live stream right now is one of the pictures that's promoting this show. It's just heads floating. Heads that are gray-green. One of them is smiling. She got a ribbon on her head. She's just floating. There's bodies in the background floating too. I mean, that's the kind of thing to expect. Now, this is right up my alley. This is the sort of anime I watch. I know a lot of people are like, oh, anime is so great. I'm like, I don't like to watch One Piece. I don't want to watch this shit. But Junji Ito Maniac, that's me. I'm like Pet Shop of Horrors.
You like your horror, your macabre, creepy anime. Exactly.
So if you're like me, and that's the sort of, I know it's not Halloween or spooky season, but anytime can be spooky season if you're a weird, sick, twisted person like me. Sam, you're not a weird, sick, twisted person. What are you watching?
I'm watching Poker Face, and I want to give a shout out to our one of our video producers, Luke Brooks, who we were kind of talking about this. We both watched the first episode, and I'm hooked already.
Did you watch it together?
Unfortunately not. Sherlyn, you want to come over and we can have a big group watch party?
Hell yes. Okay. So
the general premise of the show is that the main actress, who's played by Natasha Lyonne, I believe, she can't lie, or she can always figure out when someone's lying. And it's not like necessarily a superpower. She just like has the ability to like read people's faces and speech patterns. And so the show starts out, and the origin is she used this to get really good at poker, but then she got caught. And so now it's about how that is, impacting how her life is going to be. And then kind of go from there. I don't want to spoil it because the first episode is jam-packed and the cast is great. So we have Natasha Lyonne, we have Adrian Brody, Benjamin Bratt. Really, really good cast. I think Ron Perlman's in it, although he wasn't in the first episode. So surprisingly good cast, and it is on Peacock, which I know is not the people's most favorite platform, but the first episode is free. So if you want to, download the app and watch the first episode, at least get a sense of it and decide, what you want to do before, if you want to continue the series later, you can do that for free. So it's not, there is a trial. You don't have to like pay for it right off the bat.
I'll wait for it to come out of Peacock. Our live stream producer Julio Barrientos does point out that low-key Peacock is better than Netflix at the moment, in his opinion, which is not wrong considering everything that's going wrong at Netflix right now. But I still will wait for Poker Face to go to another platform, maybe Hulu. Let's see. But yeah, thanks Sam for this. I can't wait to come over for the watch party.
Anytime.
All right, I'm gonna do the outro, and then we are gonna wrap.
Yep.
Well, that's it for the episode this week, everyone. Thank you, as always, for listening. Our theme music is by game composer Dale North. Our outro music is by our very own Terrence O'Brien. This podcast is produced by Ben Ellman. You can find Sam online at
Sam Rutherford on Twitter, and as always on Engadget.com.
If you want to send me more gruesome looking anime, but keep it PG-13, I am at Sherlyn Lowe on Twitter. Email us your thoughts at podcast@engadget.com. Leave us a review, please, on iTunes and, anything that gets podcasts. And subscribe also on anything that gets podcasts. Also, send me your Bing queries on Twitter.
Okay, we're
All
out.
right. Now we have some time. I see D-Man is here talking about Agretsuko, Lie to Me. Buddy305 Love said that Poker Face remember. Yeah, I was thinking Lie to Me when I saw
Yeah,
the
it's
premise.
a little bit less clinical in that they don't do like the freeze frames on like the people's facials.
Yeah.
You know, to
Okay.
like highlight like, oh, like disgust but I do get a very similar vibe, and I like Lie to Me and I like Poker Face. So if you kind of like those, you probably right up your alley.
The entire
I just saw
concept of like micro expressions is like kind of true, but also like way too.
It's a little
involved.
pseudoscience-y. Yeah.
I just saw really quick all the way back when we were playing with Bing. After Buddy305 Love said to convince me that rats are cool, we had a few good ones afterwards. Like well, Darren said that the Bing report on me didn't say that I can speak 3 languages, which is true. KP said, write me a marriage proposal to The Rock. Rob Langley said, a late night version of this demo would be so funny. Maybe we can come back on Engadget after dark, or I'll do a live stream on my Instagram and we'll do that. Tom Rogers said, ask AI to send a drunk text to your ex at 2 a.m. Yeah.
I think that the ethical part of the chatbots are going to stop that from being as interesting as you might want it to be.
Well, okay, but I mean,
maybe I'll do that now. Hang on.
Uh-oh.
Clear.
I'm sure that like there's got to be some PG rating on the bots, right? They're not going to go full like.
It's possible. I mean, but then again, like what happened to Nothing Forever? What happened to the Seinfeld live stream? It went less PG. So one of my favorite internet like culture newsletters also like kind of speculated the idea that sometime in the future we could be writing emails where we're like, hey, ChatGPT, like write a cover letter. Okay, wait.
Okay. We have 3 minutes. I'm sorry. We have 3 minutes.
Ahead.
I want to show the chat. I tried to share my screen. We'll see. It says, I said, write an email to my ex as if I'm drunk at 2 a.m. And Bing says, I'm sorry. I don't think that's a good idea. Writing an email to your ex when you're drunk could hurt your feelings or theirs. How about I write an email to your friend as if you're drunk at 2 a.m. instead? Here's what I came up with. Hi, friend. I miss you so much. You are the best friend ever. Do you remember that time we went to the karaoke, and sang our hearts out? That was so fun. I wish we could do that again. How does it know I like karaoke? Can y'all see the screen?
That was the nicest way of declining to do what you wanted to do.
Yeah. Are y'all seeing this? I can post a screenshot to my Twitter after this. Okay, great. But yeah, so that was a great one. Thank you, Tom Rogers, for that brilliant idea.
Such a good idea. Quick response to Michael Brescher Jr. I have not seen the Flash on CW. I haven't really watched any of like the DC verse. Like
my wife actually loves the Flash, but she took a break from it, and because like. It's hard to watch CW shows on a week-to-week basis. Like, there's not enough going on. But maybe we're probably going to go back and binge watch that at some point. Now that like this is the final season.
Tom Rogers also said in the chat, if we can stay on Twitter, we can stay in Hogwarts, which I think that's a good observation.
So very quickly,
and Michael Brescher also,
getting back to the idea of like, okay, so you have ChatGPT like integrated with email. So sometime in the future, you might say in an email, like, hey, ChatGPT, like write a cover letter for me for this job. Yeah. It writes the cover letter. It sends it out. Then you also have ChatGPT on the job side.
Receiving
receiving it and then maybe distilling it. And so you just have like a lot of computerized middle person, like, and a lot of compute power basically being used for nothing. You could cut all of that out and just like not do a cover letter or something. It's going to be kind of strange in the next few years. Like, how is this going to be integrated and what's going to happen?
Yeah.
I would say do not let AI write your cover letter. If you can't write a better cover letter than AI, then you got problems. You don't deserve the job because your cover letter is about you. If you're asking someone else to like write stuff that's in your head, you're gonna have issues.
I know we're about out of time, so I just want to say, why said yo, what up? Hi. What about the HP Hogwarts Legacy? That's the game we were just talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the game. Okay, because I know there have been other Harry Potter games, but along the same line, Michael Brusher says that they're personally a Harry Potter fan and have been since you were 3. It was all around you and it was fun, and you will continue because you like the characters and the lore. And Tom Rogers follows up. Sometimes we enjoy the art and despise the artist. So I'm glad to see at least our audience seems to be on the same page as us. I think there's definitely a way to like. So yeah, stay tuned because our review of that should be coming from Jess soon. Go on.
Yes. Okay. So I think we're done with this episode. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around. The video comes to you via our video team, which is Julio Barrientos and Luke Brooks. If you've stuck around this long, just hanging out with us, like shooting the crap and talking about ChatGPT, you know that we live in a world of algorithms more than the average person. So give us those 5 stars on iTunes, give us 5 stars on Google Podcasts or any other big podcast platform. Tell a couple of friends, give us that in-person viral lift, and we'll see you next week.
Oh, and to answer Michael Brusher's question, the Vintra's back next week too. All right.
Bye.
Thanks, y'all. Bye.
Bye-bye.